Today, we are cracking the code on how to talk to AI. And let me tell you, it's not about some secret password or complex command. It's really all about mastering the art of the ask.
You've definitely been there, right? You ask an AI for something brilliant, and what you get back is, well, it's generic, it's unhelpful, and frankly, it's just a waste of time. It's super frustrating, but here's the thing. The problem usually isn't the AI, it's how we're asking. And this, right here, this is the whole game. Look at the left. A vague prompt, like write about prompt engineering, gets you a totally forgettable, basically useless answer. But on the right, when you get specific, when you define the role, the task, and the format you want, you get something detailed, structured, and actually useful. It's that simple. The quality of your output is a direct reflection of the quality of your input.
And this skill, this discipline of crafting that perfect ask actually has a name. It's called prompt engineering. This is how you go from being a passenger to getting in the driver's seat. You're telling the AI not just what to do, but how to do it. That's how you unlock its real power.
So how do we actually do this? Well, all the fancy techniques really boil down to two main families. On one hand, you've got shot-based prompting. This is all about controlling the AI's context by giving it examples. And on the other hand, there's reasoning-based prompting, which is where you guide the AI's internal logic. All right, let's start with level 1. This is the absolute foundation of good prompting. It's all about teaching the AI by quite literally showing it what you want. You might also hear this called in-context learning.
The most basic approach is what we call zero-shot prompting. You just ask. Simple as that. You provide 0 examples, and you're relying completely on what the AI already knows from its training. This works perfectly for simple common tasks, like answering a quick fact or writing a basic summary.
But what if you need something a little more specific? Well, you've got to provide some guidance. That brings us to one-shot prompting. Here, you give the AI a single, really good example. By showing it one input-output pair, you immediately clarify what you're after and teach it the specific tone or format you're looking for.
And to unlock some serious power, we move to few-shot prompting. Now, with 2 or more examples, you're not just showing a format anymore. You're actually teaching the AI to recognize a complex pattern. This is an absolute game changer for tasks like pulling structured data out of messy, unstructured text. Okay, time for a quick reality check. These examples aren't free. They use up something called tokens. You can think of them as words or pieces of words. These count against the AI's limited short-term memory, or its context window. So the more examples you cram in, the more tokens you use, which can make your request slower and more expensive. It's always a balancing act.
Okay, so everything we've talked about so far was about giving the AI context. Let's level up. Now we're going to dive into how to teach the AI how to think. We're talking about guiding its internal process to tackle much more complex problems.
The big idea behind all of these advanced techniques is this concept of an internal scratchpad. Just think of it like the AI's working memory. We're going to use our prompts to force the model to show its work, to think through a problem step by step before it just jumps to the final answer.
Now, the most famous way to do this is with chain of thought prompting, or COT for short. Instead of just asking for the final answer, you tell the model to first lay out all of its intermediate reasoning steps. This forces it to break down a huge, complex problem into a series of smaller, more manageable ones.
And here is the absolutely wild part. A lot of the time, all it takes is adding one simple little phrase to your prompt, "Let's think step by step." It's almost like a magic spell. It triggers this deeper reasoning process in a lot of models, and it can dramatically improve accuracy on things like math problems or tricky logical puzzles.
So, what happens when your task is just too big or too complex for a single prompt? That's where prompt chaining comes in. The best way to think about this is like an assembly line for ideas. The output from the first prompt becomes the input for the second prompt, and that one feeds the third, and so on. It gives you an incredible amount of control over these complex, multi-stage tasks.
Now, this next one is really fascinating. It's called chain of debate. With this technique, you actually force the model to be its own devil's advocate. You make it generate multiple, even conflicting arguments or viewpoints, and then its final job is to synthesize all of that into the most logical conclusion. It's an amazing process that makes the final answer so much more robust and way less prone to bias.
So here's maybe the most important takeaway of all. You don't have to pick just one of these techniques. The true boss level of prompt engineering is when you start combining them, mixing and matching to create these incredibly powerful and precise solutions that are tailored to your specific problem.
For instance, check out this workflow. This is for something called retrieval augmented generation, which is a technique for grounding an AI's answers in specific, up-to-date facts. First, an extractor prompt pulls out key terms. Then, an external tool uses those terms to search a database and pull relevant documents. And finally, a synthesizer prompt uses those documents to build the final answer. It's this beautiful symphony of different techniques all working together.
I know that was a ton of information, so let's boil it all down into a simple playbook. These are the key takeaways you can grab and start using the moment this is over.
Here are the 3 golden rules. Number 1, be specific and precise. Always define the AI's role, the task you want it to do, and the exact output format you expect. Number 2, iterate. Your first prompt is almost never your best one. You have to test, refine, and tweak. And number 3, know your model's limits. Match the complexity of your prompting technique to the complexity of the task at hand.
So we've gone from just passively asking questions to actively architecting entire conversations. You now have the tools to control context and to guide logic to get exactly what you want from an AI. So I guess the only question left is this. Now that you really know how to ask, what are you going to build?